Good morning, everybody. We are here for the Pranic Consciousness Summit. We have a beautiful guest today called Mihaela Estrate. She's the co-founder of the InfoVision School in Russia, and she's working with many people, children and adults, to help them develop the power of the third eye, to help them acknowledge the power of consciousness at the same time, because she's helping people see without their physical eyes. So she's helping people see in a blindfold state. So Mihaela is here with us, and she's going to explain to us how she does it. But in the meantime, just to know, the Pranic Consciousness Summit is an online summit, a platform with more than 35 interviews so far. We've been having live streams with people in the world of spiritual science, consciousness, and higher concepts from all over the world, talking breatharianism, the possibility to be nourished by light, chi or prana, talking about about the infinite possibilities of the human body and of the human consciousness. So we're very grateful to have Mihaela here with us today. Mihaela is from Romania, the same as I am. And so I'm very proud to announce that Romania has wonderful people and to present them to you, because I just love this place of the world. And so thank you, Mihaela, for being with us, and thank you for joining us. And I'm really grateful for your work. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Thank you for having me. For these couple of years that I've been doing what I'm doing, I got to meet a lot of people, and I agree with you. There are a lot of wonderful people in this part of the world. Sorry, this will be my...
I would love to have more sound from you. So either the speakers are low, or you can speak a little higher to hear you better. Thank you so much.
Yes, I think I'll try the headphones. But in the meantime,
Maybe
I'll
with
speak
headphones,
louder.
yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So yeah, there's infinite possibilities to the human body, and we're learning about it now.
Right. Is this better now?
Totally true. Okay, so whenever you're ready.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Go ahead.
So my journey has been more or less the same, with everybody seeking for more meaningful experiences. And I had the opportunity and the blessing to have experienced some things that told me that whatever we are being taught that life is, that would be the very minimum of what it really is. So I started...
What it actually is.
What it actually is, indeed. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think no matter how far we have managed to experience and understand, there's still a lot more to discover and uncover about life in general, about what we call God, or any other name we may give to this reality, to this dimension. And there's definitely a lot more about human potential and our abilities, and what we can do, and what we should do, actually. But the most the most powerful experience that I had has been with this method that I've been practicing and teaching for the past 7 years or so. It is called infravision. The method in itself is 21 years old. So, not that baby, let's say, for modern times at least.
For what I see, it's much older, but probably somebody has patented it as, the method that it is now. But there's saints and sages and energy practitioners from all over the world in ancient times, like thousands of years ago, talking about the power of the third eye and the power of inner vision, right?
Right. The ability,
I guess that's what we're talking about here.
Exactly, yes. We call it seeing with the mind's eye, inner vision, outer vision, both.
Seeing with the mind's eye. I love that concept. Let's explain a little bit about the mind's eye and what it is. And for the viewers of Facebook and Instagram, please check out my YouTube, Cristiana El Trayan, to be able to see this whole thing and also see Mihaela, because we're not doing the live on Insta or Facebook. It's on my YouTube. Check that out. Okay, so what's the inner vision? What's the mind's eye, actually?
Well, the mind's eye, at least in my understanding, can be used both for what we would call outer vision, which is to see the outer reality, right? Like the environment, so the 3D, the physical, but also, the 4D, 5D, whatever names we may give to us being able to see things that are normally not perceivable with the physical eyes, or so we think.
So what people in spirituality call other dimensions, which are actually other realms of reality, or other realms of, beyond the things that you cannot perceive with the five senses, but they're actually there and you can perceive them if you develop your other senses.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yes. They are here, not there. They are here all the time. It's just that we don't know to perceive them because we haven't been, supported to open up that perception. I'm sure we all have it as children, but because nobody around us acknowledged that or was able to explain that or to see the same thing that children see, then I'm sure we have all decided, okay, maybe that's my fantasy or whatever. And then we close down these perceptions. So in my perspective, they are not necessarily dimensions as, this is 3D, this over here is 4D, this over here is 5D. They are all in one. It's just our openness to perceive frequencies, dimensions, more than the very minimum, which we call, the visible spectrum and the 3D.
So there are higher levels of frequencies perceivable with a higher level of senses, the same way you see the rainbow spectrum of colors with the physical eye, but there's also ultraviolet and infrared that exists as color, as frequency, but you can only perceive them with some devices because your third eye, your eye is not trained to see them. Your third eye might be, though.
Yes, exactly. And, at the end of the day, it's not even about the two physical eyes and the third eye. It's about consciousness. How open we are to, in the beginning, just the idea that there's more that we can perceive. That's the very beginning. If we are closed to even the idea, the thought that we can see, we can perceive more, then of course there's nothing to train, right? This third eye, whatever that is, the structure in the middle of the brain, we all have it. So it's nothing, it's not that some people are gifted and others are not, or you are born like that, or it's just us opening up to things that we are not used to perceive. And as adults, that requires some conscious shift. We have to work our way through to get to accept these things. I'm always saying that there are some levels of openness, of confidence and trust that these things are possible. So there's number one, the very minimum, the foundation is to accept that these things are possible. These perceptions are possible.
Yes.
In general. So not about me, not about you, but just in general, that these perceptions do exist. It's not somebody having schizophrenia or delusional or whatever, you know. These things are real, and we can all have these perceptions. But then,
Well, actually, there's been studies that also schizophrenia is an expansion of natural perceptions,
yes,
and there's people perceiving other realms and then don't know how to deal with them. So basically, it's not an illness; it's just an
yes,
untrained aspect of the other senses. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, you know, psychiatry in general is a very volatile field
Exactly.
of science. They don't have yet solid tools to distinguish, to discriminate between indeed paranormal abilities, or what we call paranormal abilities, and what might be, like, I don't think really that all schizophrenics are paranormal. I'm sure some of them do have some mental issues. But the problem is we cannot yet discriminate between those who do have mental issues and those who are actually perceiving things and nobody around perceives them. And so, well, we have 10 people in the room, one sees something, the other 9 will say, well, go see a psychiatrist, right?
You're a little crazy.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, yes.
exactly. So
Right,
you're basically in the realm of the people that see beyond the five senses, and you're training others to do so.
right.
How did you discover this method?
Um, 8 years ago, I saw a very brief announcement about a Russian gentleman coming to Romania and delivering a course in seeing without the eyes. And I thought, well, that sounds interesting. But I felt, okay, it's interesting, but I didn't feel that drawn to actually do some search about it. I just put it aside and I said, okay, maybe sometime later. That some time later
Okay.
came. And second time when I saw the announcement, I was more interested in finding out something about this. So I
More
started,
open to it.
yes, yes. I started Googling, you know, looking for videos, whatever I could find at the time. And I also called the lady organizer at the time and I asked her, you know, what's this about? What would I get? You know, can you please
Yes.
explain anything to me? Because the announcement was really, really brief. And I must say, I didn't understand much, if anything, of what the lady said. So I understood, okay, not time yet. Okay, again, put it aside. However, third time when I saw it, so that would be exactly 7 years ago, now I felt like, no, I want to join this workshop. Doesn't matter that I don't understand what I'm being told about it. I just feel I need to go, and so I did. So that was in spring 2014. Over the summer, I already started to notice things. I had been doing this practice of self-observation for a good number of years. So it was easy for me to spot things happening in me as a result of having attended the course. And it was then when already I started searching and reading a little bit about the brain, trying to correlate the empirical observations with some scientific explanation, which was not available much at the time about infovision.
We didn't have much information in Romania actually 10
Yeah.
years, 20 years ago. That's why we're now, you know, bringing as much information as possible. The population needs to wake up.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, actually, Infovision came to Romania first time 8 years ago, so it's quite fresh to Romania.
Yes, yes.
So then I got interested in becoming a trainer. So I forgot to mention the original author, like the one who developed the methodology. Again, the ability, we have it for thousands of years since we were
Yes.
created, but there are
Yes.
different methodologies all around the world aiming at opening up this perception. And this
Mhm.
one, the one that I'm practicing, I learned it from a gentleman called Mark Komisarov.
Yes.
Um, so then I got the license. So I got certified as a trainer. And from the very beginning, I was interested more in the impact of the practice on the human system altogether, because it's not only on the body, it works also on the emotions, on the mental, and if allowed, also on the spiritual level.
Mhm.
So, with that in mind, I started exploring and experimenting and thinking, if this standard set of exercises can impact positively the enhancement of perceptions, whether your perceptions are just fine, but you just enhance them. So, for example, you see the 3D, and now all of a sudden you can see orbs and entities. Well, that's nice, right? And interesting. Already
Mhm.
some
Yes.
door opening
So tell
there.
us a little bit about what can people actually achieve, or what's the benefits, what's happening with the person who's trained in this method, what are they seeing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it depends on the level they are at when they start the training, meaning, are they only about the 3D? Then that's fine. They will see 3D much better. From, I can see the bus, whatever, the plate, uh,
Mhm.
20 meters away. Now I can see it 100 meters away.
So
So,
you perceive things in the physical world as if your eyes would have gotten better.
exactly,
That's what you.
exactly,
And
exactly,
I've
exactly.
watched you in the movie Superhuman that I feel to mention because it's really important for humanity now. So there's a movie called Superhuman made in 2020 where all paranormal, if you will, abilities of the human body are being described from the scientific perspective with the scientific experiments that have proven that they exist. So they're describing remote viewing, remote healing, DNA modification with the impact of consciousness or in meditation. They're describing telekinesis, which means moving objects with the power of the consciousness, and so on. All these phenomena tested in scientific laboratories. And I've noticed that Mihaela and the institute she's collaborating with are having trainings with children that are able to see blindfolded, so without their physical eyes, and also with adults that have health issues, for example, blind people or people with vision deficiency, all the way up to Alzheimer and other, disease of brain functioning, we could call it, that are curable or treatable with this method, which is basically expanding the consciousness beyond the five senses. So the first level that you're referring to now, Mihala, is the fact that people can see better what
Yes,
is in the physical world. They can perceive the physical world, the things that they see with with the physical eyes, they can perceive it at a higher accuracy. What's the
right,
next level?
right. The next level would be the non-physical.
Yeah.
And in there we can include whatever we want to include, without necessarily saying, astral or this or that, just the non-physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although when you have this perception, it still looks like physical. So, for example, when
Yes.
you see orbs, they're just right there, right? It's not,
Yes.
they look,
What are the orbs? Let's imagine that in the audience there's people who have no idea about non-physical world. They've never heard, seen, or imagined non-physical reality. So let's explain that, like the very basic. What are the orbs and what can people see when we refer to orbs? Yes.
yes. So, orbs on a perception level, They are colored or just white uh, balls of light.
Bubbles of energy, right?
Bubbles of energy, yes.
Mhm.
But they look like colored or again whitish uh, spheres of light, colored
Yes.
light or white light, very
Mhm.
bright, very beautiful. And they are floating around in all directions, up, down, the other way, diagonal, all directions. Um, and what's interesting about this is how you feel when you perceive them. That's what caught
Mhm.
my attention. The visual was beautiful, but I noticed that
Yes.
I feel different when I perceive them. And that's what
Yes.
I found interesting. Like, what is happening? Why do I feel, also myself like lighter,
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden in some kind of a better mood,
Yes. Uplifted, we could say.
uplifted. Yes, yes, that would be
And
a
they
better
also
word.
have the weird tendency to appear in photography. So when you
Yes,
go in places that are considered to have a special energy, like, for example, the Romanian Sphinx or some caves in Romania, you take some photos. And if you're lucky for the photos to stay on your
yes,
camera, because they sometimes get deleted,
yeah,
in a way, if you're lucky for them to stay in your camera, they have these orbs of light, these bubbles of
yes,
weird colored energy, or that appear in the photo. And the rational people, the logical ones, say, oh, it's the light, the way it's reflecting in the camera lens, blah blah blah. But actually, you can also
yeah,
feel different, feel uplifted when they
yes.
are around, right?
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
And I've been watching this and noticed that they do show up, these orbs, these entities of light, they do show up selectively.
Yeah.
So I've noticed they show up quite often with autistic children,
Yes.
which I find interesting, right? So I would
Mhm.
have this group of children, and I would have one, two autistic children, and I would have my camera, have all the kids um, on tape, and I would notice that those orbs would go only to the autistic children, not necessarily to the others, right? So
Mhm.
these would
Mhm.
be the orbs. The way I started seeing them was they kept showing up in the bottom left corner peripheral vision. So in the
Yes.
beginning, I would see them only there. Then, you
Mm.
know, the field
Expands.
expanded. Yes.
Mhm.
Then what else? Non-physical entities, right? Like those again, white or colored silhouettes
Mhm.
that again would show up every now and then. Um, but also, I was very fascinated to see how the sun looks when you look at it with the mind's eye.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yes, so when I first had this experience, accidentally, inverted commas, I would look at the sun. I had been reading a little bit about pranic nourishment and about, is it safe or not safe to look at the sun? And I did have
Mhm.
students who did that and they burned their retina. So you have to know
Sun
how to do
gazing.
it. Sun gazing, yes, yes.
Yes.
Um, so I felt like, oh, okay, I have this mind eye working now. Let me play with it, experiment with it, and see, do I feel anything in the eyes, in the physical eyes, if I look at the sun, if I gaze at the sun?
Yes.
And not only I didn't have any, damage or anything at all to my physical eyes, but I noticed that when I would first look at the sun, it would look the way we know it looks, right? That yellow
Mhm.
ball of light.
The normal aspect. Yeah.
Exactly. But when you shift and you switch to the third eye, whatever that means, because I have a suspicion that we don't really know what that is. But anyway, this third eye
Yeah.
thing,
Okay.
then
when you expand your vision, let's say, to beyond
yes,
the physical senses,
right,
might be the third eye, might be your whole level of consciousness, whatever that is.
exactly,
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Then the image changes, the
Yeah.
solid aspect of it kind of dilutes, kind of disappears, and it
Hmm.
gets into this more steamy, energy looking,
Yes.
you know, entity,
Like a
reality.
holographic image, we could
Yes,
say.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. But what I found interesting was that it had a blue ring around it.
Hmm.
So the yellow shifted into a different kind of yellow, you know,
Hmm.
more etherical yellow,
Yes.
but it had this blue ring around it. And then I
Yes.
noticed the same with the moon. And I found
Yes.
that interesting, like, wow. So, it seems you are looking at the same thing, but you perceive it differently. Uh,
Different. Yeah.
and again, the same uplift sensation and that feeling that you just could stay there and look and look and look.
Yes.
And like you are getting energized and, um, you know, something is changing inside of you when you use
Yes.
the mind's eye, irrespective of whether you're looking at something material. So with infravision, basically that's what we teach. We don't teach seeing the non-physical. We encourage it with the people that are open to this. But the
Yeah.
workshop in itself, we consider that let's first see the physical
Better.
better and all
The
of
way
it.
it is. Yes.
Exactly, right. Let's
Okay.
not need the glasses, right?
Yeah.
Let's not be blind anymore. All of these things. Let's not get tired, our eyes tired of so much technology. Let's not be
Mhm.
affected by 5G. Let's handle and upgrade our response to the physical interference, right? All of
Yes.
these things that contaminate our system. And
Mhm.
then we can proceed with the non-physical. But every now and then when somebody is open to that, then I do encourage that, because it's interestingly enough how the mind works. People who are open to the non-physical perceptions, when they start seeing these orbs or anything else, then it's clear to them, okay, this is my third eye.
Okay.
But when they see the physical, interestingly enough, then they have some challenge to go through, because in the beginning, when you don't pay attention to the details, it seems to you that when you see the 3D with the mind's eye, it looks exactly the same as the 3D you see with your eyes. And that's not
Yes.
it's not the case. The 3D itself looks different when you perceive it with the mind's eye. Colors
Mhm.
are brighter, they look alive, the space perception is different, the depth perception is different, time perception is different, body perception is
Absolutely.
different, balance is different, everything is different.
Even your level of nourishment. Did you notice
Yes,
people needing less food when they expand their consciousness to this level
yes,
of perception? I'm curious to know.
yes, yeah. So the
Mhm.
first thing that happens, if we, and that was my case, if we
Yeah.
were meat eaters when we joined the workshop,
Yes.
then naturally, somehow, you cannot accept the density of meat anymore. It's
Your
just a
body
natural,
rejects it
exactly,
because it
exactly,
went into a higher frequency. So it doesn't frequency match the
exactly.
quality or the frequency of the food you want to eat. The meat
Yeah,
is not in the same frequency as your
yes,
body. So your body
exactly.
rejects it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And all of a sudden, again, naturally, you start paying attention to everything else. So, okay,
Yes.
you give up on eating meat, but then also you start paying attention to anything else you eat. So it's not, okay,
Yeah.
let me just fill my stomach and, have a taste, a nice
Yes.
flavor experience, but also being mindful about what you are ingesting and what you are thinking, and you start observing your emotions and start clearing up and do this introspection of tracing back, where do I have this from, why do I have it, what for, you get into the spiritual approach of the 3D, basically, right?
Mhm.
So eating patterns change. You eat much less and wiser. Um, the body changes, of course. The shape, the the energy, the health,
Yes.
the resilience. You can work so much more once you have this in place, and you never get tired. Like, I'm having classes sometimes 14 hours a day,
Yes.
just the classes, but then there are messages and phone calls and other things to do.
Yeah.
So I'm staring at the screen for 14 hours and I don't get tired.
Mhm.
And then sleep changes as well. You sleep much less, you need much less,
You
because
don't need sleep. Yes.
yes. Why? Because this is something that we got to observe, to understand with the EEGs that we've done. And we've noticed that when you practice infravision, in the beginning only during the practice, but the more you practice, then that extends beyond the actual time of practice. The brain drops from beta, which is so energy depleting, and eventually too high beta is what we call stress. And then the hormonal
Yes.
system getting into producing cortisol and all of those things.
Yes.
We drop down the waves to alpha, theta,
Yes.
and delta. All of these
Yes.
three we
We
identified.
access.
Yes, just by doing the practice. So
Okay.
then when we sleep, why do we need to sleep that long? Because a lot of the time of our sleep is basically going down from beta to delta through alpha, which is relaxation, and theta. But
Shifting brain waves. And when you
exactly.
shift them consciously, I want to just expand a little bit on this because that's really important, especially for people who try to understand consciousness and meditation. So when you shift them consciously by modifying your inner state, expanding beyond the physical senses, expanding to a higher state of consciousness, then you move from beta, which is the normal brainwave state that's been measured in laboratories, the brainwave state of busy mind, when you're solving things, you're doing business during the day, you're trying to find solutions with your human mind. That's the busiest and most cluttered aspect of your mind. Then you shift to alpha with meditation or with this method of expanding consciousness, and then you shift to theta, which is the one of the most relaxed aspects of your mind. It's the aspect that is specific to the state between wake and sleep. Right when you're falling asleep, that's when theta brain waves are happening. And there's delta, which is the deepest, when you're deep asleep. You can achieve that with meditation. So trained meditators can be in delta state and still stay awake. That's why you don't need to sleep, because when
Right.
you're trained to achieve these states during your daytime, being awake and maintain them as an awake person, you don't need to sleep almost at all. You don't sleep
Yep. Exactly.
basically,
Yep.
unless your body needs to restructure something or just rest there. You don't even go to bed. Yeah.
Yep.
So that
Exactly.
is
Yep.
possible.
Yes, definitely. I've had a lot of nights where, I would go to sleep, nighttime, okay, time to go to sleep, good. And I just couldn't sleep. So then okay, wake up, get up, do something, right?
Do the normal tasks. I had the same
Yep.
experience very often. I actually live in a beautiful energy vortex here, and we don't sleep much. But I was called to go to Brasov in the garden of a friend who has an energy vortex there. And I rested in a guest house, and it's basically the whole energy in that place spins through the garden and through the house both at the same time. So I didn't catch 1 second of sleep. I was awake as if I had the light bulb in my head all lit up. So that's what happens when the consciousness expands. You just stay constantly in the theta state, so your body just don't need to rest much.
Exactly.
I've noticed that with the people who aren't nourished by physical food, the ones who are taking only prana as nourishment, and I myself, when I'm in the pranic state, I basically sleep 1 or 2 hours from 11 to like 1 or 2 in the morning. The rest of the time is work time, or you do the normal tasks during the day. When you start ingesting food, the body has to process that. For some people, that implies sleeping if you don't have your consciousness expanded enough to maintain that state, even with food. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's all about consciousness indeed. And one of the reasons why we couldn't access these levels, say 20, 30 years ago, was because we didn't have access to information, to right information. But now when you just, like my experience, I just read about this possibility many years ago, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. But that was that much that I was ready to accept. Okay, it sounds interesting, right? After some time, I started contemplating on it and thinking, well, actually, it makes a lot of sense. And then with InfoVision, the full name of it is the activation of the center of direct information perception in the human brain.
I love the name. That says
Yes,
much more than InfoVision. Yeah.
indeed, indeed. Yes, this would be the short, right? The convenient. So the key word that I found in this full name is direct.
Direct,
So,
exactly.
exactly. So you get to see inverted commas, or better put, to perceive visually in a direct way. What is that direct way? Not bypassing the eyes, right? You
Yes.
see with something
Not
else.
cluttered by the mind frame. The
Correct.
mind
Yeah.
frame is like a veil, if you will,
Yes.
that
Yes.
perceives things to the exact level that your mind is developed, actually. So
Yes.
there are certain minds that can perceive a broader spectrum of realities, and there are certain minds that are perceiving a smaller spectrum of realities, but it's still a filter. It's
Yes.
still like
Exactly.
a window that has some stains on it. When you
Yes.
move that, you push the glass away and
Yes.
you open, then it's the direct perception that you're talking about.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm saying the same. The mind, it acts as a filter, and so the
A
way
filter.
to access these higher levels of consciousness is to clear the mind, to expand
Yes.
the mind so that it does accept higher possibilities and wider possibilities. So you either get the whole mind altogether out of the way, which is what meditation aims to do, or in this busy, chaotic, dense, low frequency Western world, where you don't have necessarily, those retreats, and like they are there, but they're Western retreats. Um, but if you work your way through the mind, so you use the mind as a friend rather as an enemy,
Yes.
then you can still get the same thing while still, doing your routine schedule.
Normal day stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But you can still work your way through the mind by feeding the mind with the right information.
Yes.
And this is the value of Superhuman movie. It's a documentary. So
Yes.
it's not a, interesting paranormal thing. It's a
Yes.
documentary. It shows with medical scientific equipment that that person doing that so-called paranormal that gets reflected with equipment that something is changing in their brain or whatever.
In their bodies or whatever study
Exactly,
it is making. Yes,
exactly,
yes.
exactly, yes.
There was a person showing how they can alter or shift the DNA in a petri dish with the power of their intention. That's
Yes,
interesting because
yes,
that shows us that my intention can shift your DNA or the other way around
yeah,
if we are conscious of
exactly.
it.
Well, I think we shift the DNA all the time, only it's unconscious.
Yes.
That's the problem. We do that. Like, again, these are not paranormal abilities. They are
Mhm.
absolutely normal. It's just us not being aware that we are doing these things. Therefore, the intention is totally unconscious, and then we cannot see the connection between our unconscious intention and the result. And we call that then an accident or having had an outer influence. No, there's never an outer influence. It's always us influencing things, but
Yes.
being unaware. So what changes when we are saying, well, my intention is shifting things? No, it's my conscious is
Consciousness.
looking. Exactly. Now I know I'm doing this, as opposed to I've done this all the time, but I didn't know that I was doing that.
As opposed to, oops, it just happened.
Exactly, exactly. And then you look for somebody either to blame or, to just
Mhm.
pass on the
Or you
responsibility.
give credits to a higher entity when
Exactly.
in fact the highest entity that's connected to source is actually you.
Yes.
I heard something interesting in our conversation, and I want to go back to it because it's awesome. You were saying about kids that are all having this perception when they are little, and that you're noticing kids having this, and then they grow up and they don't have it anymore. So let's go back to childhood. Why is it that we're so much more aware when we are little and we perceive these worlds and we have imaginary friends and we have conscious dreaming and what we call now premonition, but it's actually the access to other timelines where things are happening and you
Right.
are aware of them. Yes, why is it that children are having that, and then all of a sudden you're a grown up and you're all the way your head in your papers and tasks, and you don't remember that you can see things?
Yeah.
Why is it happening?
Well, I think we are, again, in my understanding, we are born with those things simply because we are coming from these realms where that's how we perceive those realms.
Yeah.
So that would be the language, inverted commas, the perceptual language there, whatever there means, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then here we are coming to this world, and we are coming with those perceptions
Mm-hmm.
and with telepathy and with all of these, what we call paranormal. But what happens here when we come here is that most of the times, like almost 100% of the times, the adults around us and the adults around us when they were
Mm-hmm.
babies,
Yes.
they are all in the wrong brainwave pattern. They are all in beta,
Mm-hmm.
constantly worried, constantly running, constantly working, constantly this and that, and
Agitated.
agitated and concerned, and not taking time to just enjoy the present moment. um, and we have those mirror neurons,
Neurons.
right? And we empathize with the environment. And if the environment is in beta, but then if it is in high beta and constant beta, then that translates as trauma.
Yes.
And I dare say we have all experienced trauma to some level. I think there's very, very seldom when somebody as a baby would have these relaxed, zen, conscious, mindful parents, right? And this is not me pointing fingers, it's just what it is, right?
How nice would that be? So basically, children are instantly traumatized by the hyper agitation of the adult life around them.
Yes,
And
yes,
also, to those who don't know, mirror neurons are the system in our neural pathways that are basically replicating what you see or even what you feel around you. So if you're a child, you're a little toddler, and you're constantly amongst over controlling, agitated adults, you don't even have to take classes. You just replicate or mirror what it takes and how it is to be also an over controlling agitated adult yourself. So you start
right.
being that, and then you end up being that as an adult.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
learn how to be human by mirroring with your neurons the humans, the adults around you.
right, right.
So
Just
that's how you lose your psychic abilities.
indeed,
Go ahead.
indeed. And then when you think about the birth uh,
Process.
process in
Yeah.
itself, at least
Mhm.
in Romania and any other part of the world where they do the same, you
Mhm.
have this baby coming from just getting out of this so beautiful and warm and loving and
Comfy place,
exactly, and liquid,
yummy nourishment all the time,
right,
being protected.
exactly, and darkness,
Mhm.
straight into that strong light already hitting their eyes, and then you slap them to make them scream so that okay, it's all good about them.
They're alive, yeah.
Exactly. And then you cut the umbilical cord,
Another
and then
trauma,
you
yeah.
exactly you send the baby to another ward, so no mother connection.
Mhm. All of a sudden,
Like,
yeah.
that is a huge trauma right there in the first seconds of our lives,
Right from the beginning.
right from the
Welcome
beginning, right?
welcome
Exactly,
to Earth. Snuff.
exactly, yeah, exactly. So yes, that's why I'm saying most of us have been traumatized to some extent or another. And then as children, as toddlers, as babies, we need to be in tune with our families
Yes.
so that we are accepted, so that we
Mhm.
have that sense of belonging, which
Belonging.
we are born with. And then
And it's also a
sadly,
survival thing. They like
yes,
you, they
exactly,
feed you. They don't like you, they throw you away. That's
exactly,
dangerous.
exactly.
So you play human like them to be sure that you're getting nourishment, food, love, and affection and shelter.
Exactly. Yes. And, you know, ironically, we don't really get that. Okay, food, shelter, maybe, but love, if it is conditional, then I personally don't call that love, right? It's just
That's not
a
unexisting,
trade, a
yeah.
bargain, okay? Okay, I'm a good thing, I'm a good kid, I get attention and love. I'm not, then poof, I get the opposite, right? And
Mostly
then,
the opposite.
exactly, mostly the opposite, right? And then this is what then develops into some of what we call autistic.
Yes, I was getting to it. I look forward to tell me why are the orbs around the autistic children. That's very interesting.
Yes. So, first, I should say that in my experience, I think that autism is again something misunderstood
True.
and mislabeled. Well, labeled to begin with, but
Yes.
mislabeled even, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think to me, as much as I could understand of how autism is, handled and diagnosed
And treated.
and treated, well, not treated really, but anyway,
Yes.
uh,
Mistreated.
mistreated indeed, yes. Then whatever we don't have a label for, now it's convenient to put it in the autism bucket, which is why
Yes.
it's called spectrum, right? So
it seems to be larger and larger, that
exactly,
spectrum.
exactly. So
It
again,
fits
you have
everything in. Shove it
exactly,
there.
exactly. Whatever doesn't fit these other diagnoses, boom, autism, right there.
Mhm.
So in that perspective, then, to me at least, there's real autism, which for me, autism is more of what we call Asperger syndrome. So these
Okay.
higher perceptions, this higher intellect, this higher of everything, higher sensitivity. These children are so highly sensitive and emotional that they cannot express those depths of emotions and understanding, and then they go non-verbal just because
Yeah.
language is so
Limiting.
underdeveloped, so limited
Yes.
and limiting that they cannot express in words, and then they go verbal, and then you call that a problem. No, the problem is with us, that we
Mhm.
don't have those perceptions and we
Mhm.
cannot communicate on that level with those children. And
We
then
don't
we
have the appropriate language.
exactly, exactly, we have our language and they have their language, and their language is so much deeper and
Faster.
encompassing. Exactly. And what we do with the so-called treatment is we want to get them down to our level so that
To our level, bring down their frequency.
exactly, exactly, to call them now
Actually,
normal.
I feel so lucky that in our times, 40 years ago when we were born, or more, 50 years ago, or, there was no such word as autism and the medication for it, because otherwise we would all have been medicated
Yes,
and dimmed down to the
yes,
level where we couldn't have been doing what we're doing
indeed,
now.
indeed, indeed.
Unless if we would have been really persistent, we would be vegetables by now.
Yes, yes,
The lucky
indeed.
thing was that they didn't have that information at that time.
Exactly, exactly, yes. And today, when we do have that misinformation, I'm happy to find parents who have understood that medication is not the solution,
The
unless
solution.
indeed we have these other situations where those children do have issues. But that's
Even
not
if they do,
autism.
there's energy treatments that can be done.
True,
The,
true.
the
But
reconnecting with the higher self is always the solution to
yeah,
all illness.
I agree with you totally. But children are under the influence of parents' level of
Parents, of course.
consciousness.
Yes.
So if the parents are not open to these things, then at least medication can help. So you talk to them on their level. Of course, you can,
Mhm.
have them open up a little bit, so you work with the parent rather than with the child
And the children, and
and the children.
that's the main solution. I'm doing a parenthesis. That's important that we reached here. I have parents with children that have special abilities, the same as autism. I consider autism as a special ability because it's the ability to perceive higher realms of deeper language that doesn't require our speaking language, as you were
Right.
saying. So I have children who, come and say, my child is ADHD and or autistic and stuff. And I say, okay, come and do sessions with me.
Right.
And they're like, no, my child is having a
Yes.
problem. And no, come and do sessions with me yourself.
Yes.
And then we talk and see if the child needs anything.
Yes.
After 2 or 3 sessions, the parent says, my child is behaving normally now. So I only work with the mother, for example, or
Yeah.
one of the parents. And they say after that, my child is behaving normally now. We are the ones who have to restructure our whole life.
Right.
That's
Yes.
what happens. It's very
Yes.
easy. The
Yeah.
child has been okay from the beginning.
Yes. Yes. That has been my experience as well. But then again, if the parent, and you are right, particularly the mother, because children would be more connected to the mothers
Closer
until
connected.
about 14 years old or so, then you can work either way. You can work with the child and the mother just changes, or you can work with the mother and the child just changes. I've had that, like I had this 4-year-old girl with strong strabism, and we had this first class, and then second day I would have the parents, okay, what have you noticed since yesterday? And the kids were one side of the table and the parents over here, and I scanned them quickly. I spotted the changes, and then I asked the parents to see, have they noticed, because I had told them, I had kind of, trained them what to look for, because they don't see, right? They don't look, and so they don't see. Speaking
Yes.
of physical, right? 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So, this parent, that parent, and then this last mother. And I said, okay, what have you noticed about your daughter? Well, this, she looks smaller. Okay, good. What else? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
this, that, that. Good. What else?
Mm-hmm.
What else? And
Yes.
I just pushed her, and until she got to the point where she said, I think that would be it. And I said, okay, let's do this. Look at your daughter now. What do you see
Now.
now? And she looked, oh, she looks bright, and okay, good. What else? Again, I did the what else until
Yes.
I said, look at her eyes.
Yes.
And when she did, initially she did like, and then she had this huge eyes, like, oh my God, her strabism is gone. I
Yes.
got goosebumps, but she didn't see
Goosebumps.
it, right? And then, okay, parents went out. We did the second class. And then when she came back, she said, you know what I noticed? I was looking in the mirror, staying in the car, waiting for the class to be over, and I saw my strabism was gone.
Her strabism is gone
Exactly,
too.
because it was
Yes.
genetic, right? Inverted
Yes.
commas. Yeah,
Yes.
the girl got
Yes.
it from the mother. Well,
Talk about changing the DNA. Like there you have it.
exactly, exactly, right there.
Yes,
So,
because pineal is the one governing or getting impulses to DNA. So when you expand the properties or upgrade the properties of the pineal gland, the endocrine gland that controls DNA, then of course the DNA can
yeah,
upgrade, and then of course genetic issues can be modified, or
exactly.
you don't
Yeah,
have them anymore.
yeah, exactly. Genetic issues,
Mhm.
or for example, if it is Down syndrome,
Mhm.
I haven't had the experience that the syndrome would go away. So, not that at that
Not
genetic
that high
level,
level, yeah.
chromosome, yes, exactly. However, all of the negative consequences of that child having Down syndrome, like nonverbal, severe ADHD, low IQ, all of those things uh, would be solved. So you get this
Mhm.
beautiful, I had this boy in Kazakhstan, you have this beautiful 4-year-old Down syndrome boy changing
Mhm.
from almost non-functional, just running away, running around. You could not have him sit for 1 second. And then you do a short session with him. And then second day when he comes, he just sits there and he can already process what you are telling him. Just one session.
Yes.
So
In one
Down
session, yeah.
syndrome was there, but none of the problems that he had associated with it were there anymore. And then,
Mhm.
there's this thing often associated with the autism that I don't consider really autism, more like some brain damage, whatever the cause.
Okay, that's interesting.
Um, so there are these children who don't have these special abilities, what I call, and I see you call the same. That would be for me the real autism.
Yes.
These high functional children that are way beyond our comprehension.
Yes.
But then there are these other children who don't have these abilities. They have just been damaged. Their brain has been damaged, whatever the cause. I don't want to go into that.
Yes.
And one of the issues associated with this kind of autism is that they don't want to go to the bathroom. They don't want toilet. And so parents would have to use diapers, no matter the age. And my experience with InfoVision is that that gets solved. They all of a sudden, after 1-2 sessions of InfoVision, go on their own to the bathroom and do what they were supposed to do. You know, they would be 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. You don't expect to be helping them with that, right? But they just don't want to. And all of the sudden, they just go to the bathroom as a normal kid, whatever normal means, right? But anyway, and it's job done. And you know, to us that may sound, oh, okay, yeah, good, but to those parents, that is huge. When you
Yes.
don't need to worry about the toilet, and you can then, you know, go out in the park with the child, or you go visit, you go to a movie, because now you don't need to constantly worry about this thing at nighttime and all of that. That is huge change in that child with that basic physiological need which they were not able to
Comprehend
process.
before.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit in your activity, you know, because we don't have so much time, and I invite the ones on YouTube or the page that you received for this summit. I invite you to place questions in the comments. You know, what do you want to know about the power of inner vision, the blindfold reading, and all the other perceptions that come with it? Please ask some questions so that we can answer them in the last 10 minutes of this gathering. And I have the question of what are the other things that you've seen? So for example, in terms of consciousness or expanding the senses, what did you notice with your work and what's possible out there? You know,
Right.
that's something we all want to know.
Well, what's possible, the whole of it, we don't know, but bits and
Yes.
pieces, right?
Mhm.
In terms of perceptions, then the what we call the usual, the normal perceptions, they get enhanced. You see better, you hear better, you feel better. So you get to be an empath. You feel people's emotions. In my case in particular, but there are many others who experience this, you get to feel on your body, even physically, what the person you are connected to feels.
Feels. Yes.
Exactly, yes. Um, you get some kind of telepathy. You tune into people's thoughts, into people's subconscious mind. You get to know things for them that they seem to not be able to access that information for themselves. And you are there to just voice that which they need.
Yes.
Uh,
You hear them better than they hear themselves,
exactly,
basically.
exactly.
That
Yes, yes.
at least that's how I work in my therapy. We go into theta state through a brief meditation or you know, a relaxing exercise, and then I start asking questions about the issue in their life. Would it be family issue or couple issue or finances or job or spirituality or sexuality? We start asking questions, but the questions and answers that come are all related with what they have in their subconscious. So being
Exactly.
able to tap into that is just a way to leading them there, you know, opening the door to something they have closed a long, long time ago and they shoved it under the carpet. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And it seems to me you are doing the same thing. I very seldom give the answers myself. What I do is I get the answers for myself, but I would ask them questions so that they get their answers themselves.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes,
You
when they
want
do
them to
that,
find their answers. Yeah.
exactly,
Be
because
empowered.
correct. When you
Mhm.
get the answer yourself, then it's you tapping into your own subconscious mind, and then you recognize the information and you accept it, as opposed to me saying something to you, it goes to your conscious mind, and then maybe
You
yes,
doubt it. Yeah.
no,
The,
exactly,
the
exactly,
conscious the conscious mind might filter it out. The
exactly,
filter we were talking at the beginning, the
yes,
frame that you're thinking through might say, nah, that's not true. I know better.
exactly, yeah, just
Yes.
to
So it's
match.
best that the person sees the answer herself. Exactly.
Indeed, yes. So that would be in terms of perceptions. And then, of course, distance doesn't matter, right? Um,
No.
but in terms of the other things, with infravision, we have what we might call now outer vision. That was developed by Mark Komisarov. So you get to perceive the outer world, and the inner vision, which I got inspired to develop, and that is you tapping into your own subconscious mind, learning how to do that without anybody's support. So, in the beginning, yes, it would be me there to guide the process, but at the same time, while they tap into their subconscious mind, after the session, I explain to them those metaphors that they received, because sometimes you get the
What
information.
they found there, right?
Exactly. And sometimes the information comes explicit, so there's no room for interpretation. It's just, message, target, you
Clear.
get it, right? But other times it comes metaphorically, like, certain colors, certain visions, certain sensations, and those need interpretation. And then I do the education of telling them, okay, when you get that, it means this. And when you get that other thing, that means that. And then you correlate and you connect the dots and you get the bigger, the broader picture. And then they can do that uh, on their own without any support, because I am all for this. I'm here to guide you through the initial steps and show you a possible path, a possible approach. But then it has to be you, because it's you, about your life, about your past, present, and future.
Mhm. Somebody here in the audience is asking, do you need to practice a lot to achieve seeing the aura? Literally, they ask.
Yeah, no practice actually at all. Again, what for me practice is, and the amount of practice needed, is actually how open I am to being able to acquiring this ability, but also how much I am confident that I can acquire it.
Can.
If I think
Mhm.
of myself, oh, I'm just this regular person, I am not spiritual, I haven't done any workshops, then maybe I need years of training to do that. No, absolutely not. To get to see the aura, all it takes is a couple of minutes. That's all it takes. And then you
Mhm.
just play with it. You don't really, the word practice and train is more about the left brain, right? Where
Mhm.
you have to do something to repeat, to be consistent, to get the quantity, so that eventually you get the quality. My
Yes,
approach is, let's just go straight and get the quality.
quality.
Quality, exactly. So what you do, you just, stare at your hand, or at some object, preferably living object like an animal, a tree, because they have much more energy and life. And you just let your eyes gaze, and they will go from being focused, where you see the 3D, to slowly get into the gaze. And it's the gaze that gives you the energy, seeing the energy, because that's what aura is. And then you just play with it. So approach it as something enjoyable, something triggering shifts in you, rather than school, you know, I train every day this amount of time and then eventually I get there. This would be more
What do you
the right brain approach. Yes.
what do you think keeps people from seeing all these things?
That is a
What
brilliant
blocks?
question. Yes, that is a brilliant, brilliant question. And I am offering this food for thought or for contemplation in my workshops, whether people are sighted or blind. Um, whatever we experience right from our birth, that I call traumatizing, then right there we want to not perceive things. And it's not only about seeing, it goes with hearing as well. It goes with all perceptions, but it's more visible about the visual. So there are some studies that have shown that newborn babies can perceive the level of consciousness of their parents.
For sure.
Exactly. But it's scientifically proven, like we kind of knew this thing, but it's been scientifically shown that that's the case. So just imagine this baby having these elevated, enhanced perceptions, perceiving things that we train years to get a little bit of that. And then you get to see this traumatized mother that you have, and this traumatized father that you have, who unconsciously want to shape you in their image, right?
Exactly.
So what's the solution? The solution is to stop seeing them.
Close your eyes.
Exactly. Close your eyes, close your ears, close your telepathy, close your sensitivity, and downgrade yourself to the level where you can function. So what we do now as adults is trying to get that back, but that means we would have to somehow go through, you know, where you were born here, this perfect little angel. Trauma has come along and we ended up here. For us to go back to here, at least in my understanding, most of the time at least, we have to go through the same path backwards and heal layers upon layers of trauma so that we go back to this pure being that we were and that was covered by these layers of conditioning, programming, poisoning, you know, with all this fluoride and anything else, and trauma. So that's why we don't want to see, because we all create this unconscious coping and defense mechanism where if I learned, okay, when I saw that I got hurt, then I don't want to see that. And now it's good for me, it's safe for me that I don't see that. But if I decide from that higher level of consciousness, spiritual dimension, that I want to see that, then that defense mechanism of not feeling safe to see that will get triggered. And you have to work with it, whatever the method, the, you know, the therapy, the healing method we resonate with. We have to work ourselves through dissolving that mechanism to feel, I do feel safe now to see that. It's okay for me now. I'm not in that traumatized environment anymore, you know. 40, 50, 20, whatever my age is, years ago. Now I'm in this safe environment where I do want to heal myself and get back my potential and my divine aspect, basically.
Yes, so that's a beautiful statement. Healing your trauma or whatever has closed you down is the solution to opening up. And that relates beautifully to a question in the audience asking about how do you work with healing the emotional body through inner vision?
Right. We are not that in tune with our emotions. A little bit with our mind, but with our emotions, this is something we have all learned to close. And so it's quite difficult for most people to observe their emotions and get in tune with them. So what I do then, I direct the perception of emotions to visual and to physical sensations. And then I know that that would speak of the energy dimension of those people. So certain emotions can be translated in certain visuals, certain visual experiences. You get to see specific colors. And then the brightness of that color, or if they are dull, then I would know, okay, it means this. If they just cannot see a particular color, it just doesn't show up, then I know, okay, that's where a blockage is. They just don't have any access to that segment of their being. And so the color, which is a frequency, which is that emotion, right? So you have the frequency, and then that frequency can be perceived in all sorts of ways, visually, auditory, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and so many other ways. And so I direct the perception of emotions to a language, a code I know they have access to. If the person is visual, then I direct it to the visual. If a person is more auditory, then they would hear sounds, like wind, water, some animal, leaves, whatever that is. If a person is more kinesthetic, then they would feel things happening in their body. And then I would draw their attention and I would have them look, inverted commas, at that physical sensation, whether that is pleasant or unpleasant. And then the shift has to be made about what we call pain. We somehow, by default, associate pain with something negative, which is absolutely not the case. There are two types of pain in my understanding. There's the pain which is the messenger, there's something going wrong in your system. And then there's this other pain, which is actually healing pain, which again, in my experience and understanding, here you were not having that problem. Here you are having that problem, which you know by having this pain. When you do, again, the reverse process of going back to being healthy, of not having that issue, then you again go through the pain, like the pain was hidden there, dormant. When you do these sessions, then it wakes up. Only this time when it wakes up, you have to look at it objectively and neutrally, kind of a separate entity, and look at it as a message, a piece of information, rather than, oh, so much pain, I want a pill, or just let's finish the session and get done with this pain. So you go through the pain neutrally without charging it with your emotions of
In a
judgment.
conscious way.
Exactly. And then you go through the pain, and sometimes the pain elevates to levels where people would not be able to handle it on their own. And then the pain starts to subside. But this time it subsides not because, okay, finally this episode is over. It's because the problem has been solved, and then there is no pain anymore because there is no source of pain. There is no information that would say, you know, I have an issue, and here's the message, the pain telling you that you have it.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So it goes away for good. That's the thing. Thank you for your perspective and for offering this talk with us. It has been wonderful to learn the infinite possibilities of human consciousness. As you all know, that's the main theme of the Pranic Consciousness Summit. And we've been happy to have Mihaela here with us. We also hope to have you with us at the Pranic Festival in Romania this weekend, starting Sunday on Mother Mary's Day, August 15. We have a beautiful festival, a beautiful gathering of light workers in Romania, in a mountain area near Brașov called Sâmbăta de Sus, where many therapists and spiritual scientists from all over the world gather together in conferences, sharing their methods, their abilities, and their practice to achieve higher states of consciousness to the level where you don't need physical food and you can do all the above: remote healing, remote viewing, and you know, all the other abilities, that inner vision and all the other abilities that we've spoken here. We have colleagues that aren't needing physical food for more than 20 years participating in this festival, and some of them are in person, so you can sit with them at the table and ask questions and, you know, do healing sessions or whatever you feel to share. I'm one of the speakers as well, and we would be really happy to have you here. Thank you, and people can find your information, Mihaela, on infovision.com, as far as I remember.
Yes, infovisionacademy.com. Yes.
.com, yes. And for the festival and our other events, you can go to soulhealingacademy.com/events and just check them out, or just soulhealingacademy.com shows you the articles and all the information that we posted there related to the unseen human abilities or the infinite possibilities of the human consciousness. So thank you for being with us. Thanks, Mihaela, and everyone watching. And hope to see you soon, whenever that is.
Thank you, Christiana. Thank you to all of you.
Many blessings.